At FishEZ. What we're looking at here is something of interest tonight. We'll take a look at how I made this concoction. I mean, it's really not so much a concoction as much as you can see. It's live food. This is Daphnia, the Ceria Daphnia, and this is another bottle of the same thing, but they're kind of different. We're going to talk about what I do to make all this Daphnia, and this was formed in just 3 days. So welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We are going to be doing some live food feedings and taking a look at some of the fish here in the fish room. This being a new species in the fish room, and as you can see, there's quite a few little ones. We're going to talk about those. So they are gluttons, and I can see they're doing very well. Here's a picture of the tin winnie danios, or gold ring danios, also known as gold ring. They're doing very well. And since I've had them, they've fattened up and doing superbly. Here we have some fry at the surface. This is how you can see small fry. Looks like there's some of that floating plant. There's also some up here. These are luminatus, Pseudomugil luminatus. Parents are just down below. These are the parents, females, and there are males behind there. There's a boy. You can see them. They're a nice fish. And they're not the most prolific fish, but I will say this, they are somewhat of a pretty reliable fish when it comes to breeding. They seem to always be lay eggs in the mop, and I have them in there. So we're going to take a look at some of these things. How is everybody doing tonight? I hope everyone's doing well. We're in the fish room. This is FishEZ, and thank you for joining us on this Friday night. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the things that I haven't shown you in a few weeks. We're going to just get an update, and we're going to see what kind of fry are in this room right now. Thank you very much for joining us. It will not be a long live stream. It will be enough to show you what needs to be shown. And I have I cleaned the glass of my display tank recently. Let me show you those fish, how much different they look when they are in the this is what they look like when the glass is clean. That's what I should do every time, right? Very nice looking. These are Odessa barbs, a couple long fin rosy barbs, females, and we've got a couple of gold white cloud minnows lurking about, and then there's a couple of what we have at glow light danios, also known as chopre danios. There's one right there. They're a pretty fish. Not quite as red and brilliant as these Odessa barbs. The beautiful thing about Odessa barbs is that they're usually always, they're like a pet. They can come right up to the glass. And there's a few males in here that are young males. You see the red has not come in. They were in with the females in their tank. And I moved them over recently, so they haven't colored up. Once you put them on a tank like this with black, solid black gravel, and usually some green behind them in the form of maybe some Java moss. That's Java fern right there, growing on that piece of wood, which is looking really nice, by the way. And I've got this new sword. This is a beautiful plant. I hope it survives. I've never been in the past been able to successfully cultivate that plant. I certainly hope they work. So put them in a green backdrop, lots of green plants, and then put black dark soil, and this is what happens. The males get very red, they show their color, and at times they even will blacken up and just the red will just be a smear. So yeah, welcome Hagen Hill Design. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's wonderful to know that you like these Odessas. They are very active fish. Now the females don't look the same. I keep them over here, and these are the females. I got them in with some rubies, but you can see there's a male or two. This one right here, see if I can show you. If you look at the Odessa barbs, there's a couple of them in here that have a little red smear on them, just a light red color. Those are young males. And oh, there goes one. There he is right there in the center. See him? There he is over there. They keep moving. Those fish, I'll just have to pull them out one by one. They're kind of immature right now, so these would, even with my fingers, they're coming up and nibbling at my fingers. They think they're going to be fed, I guess. Nothing like the other barbs. We do have barbs in this tank. Honestly, the barbs are one of the most active fish. They're wonderful, and they are indeed worthy of keeping if you know how to keep them in groups where they tend not to be bullies. When there's a nice group of them, they tend to behave themselves a lot better. Yeah, the females are the ones with the two spots, one in the caudal base and one in the near the pectoral fin. The striped ones here are black ruby barbs, immature ones. So those are kind of nice too. They're a nicely well-mannered striped barb, and they're not at all like their mean tiger barb cousins. Here we have a group of growing out fry. These are Odessa barbs. I was able to get a very nice batch in this tank, and that was by putting one trio, one male and two females, with a false bottom. I had a net and support on the bottom like I always do. And there's the young ones. You can see they do have a different pattern. They have, when they're young, they tend to have some more spots. Let me see if I can I hone in on them? It's kind of hard. Let me see. But the fry have these spots. I think there's one near the dorsal fin. You can see them. One near the caudal fin, and one in the dorsal. It's just a little different, and that pattern will disappear. But these were from November 24th, and today is December 12th. So these are not even a month old. They're about 3 weeks old. They're looking very good. I put one male and two females in this tank, and I put one male and two females in this tank. And this tank had a lot fewer. I don't know if the other tank had both females spawning, and in this tank maybe only one female spawned. I'm not sure. But here's a good shot, close up. I don't know. But these, when there's fewer fish in the tank, it always results in larger growth, faster growth, and these are looking good. So yeah, that's just what you were pointing out, wasn't it? Lake Missoula Aquatics and Plants, welcome. Nice to have you with us tonight on this Friday. We're looking at Odessa barb fry, and I put in a trio in each one of these tanks, not knowing if, and the funny part was this is the tank where I saw activity and spawning behavior, and in this tank over here I saw no activity, no spawning behavior, and I really thought that was going to be a dud. I didn't think there was going to be any fry, and this tank turned out to be jam-packed full of fry long before the others. The big surprise, though, was a different species of barb. This tank, I don't know if you can see exactly how many are in here, but this is also a 5.5 gallon, and it is chock full of fry. And these fry were put together on 11/15, so only about 10 days before. So this is a smaller barb. It is known as the checkered barbs. Checkered barb, and I don't have a lot of breeders, so I put a trio in here, and I was just dumbfounded. Sometimes this happens where I'll get very nice batches like this, and that is always a great treat. I want you to see how many spots are on these fish. If you can get a good glimpse of what they look like. Hi, Jeff. Welcome. If I can get a good shot of what the spots look like on these fish. Look at. It looks like what we've got is some. I don't know. The ones in the distance seem to be in focus. The ones in the foreground not. But this is These are checkered barbs. A very nice batch, and I'm very happy because I don't have a lot of breeders, and so when I put them together, I was really hoping to get them going again. There's a couple other species of barbs in my fish room that I want to proliferate a little bit more because I'm down in quantity, and I'd like to see them do well. But this is a very peaceful barb, and they're very nice. I'll just give you an idea of what the parents look like. Let me see if we can spot some checkered barbs. There's, I don't know, there's like 150 there at least. Down here, we have a few checkered barbs. These are some females. So the females look like they have a pattern. You can see that looks like across their body. It's sort of like a straight smear going across their body. Their fins have a slight tinge of yellow, and whereas the males, the tinge is more reddish. These are all females. These are female rosy, female albino cherry barbs, female hexazona barbs. But yeah, that's there. These ones down here, there's five right there. Those are the checkered barbs. Very peaceful fish. Lovely for the community tank. I highly recommend them. Let's see if we can find the males. What did I do? Oh, I have only 2 males that are of breeding age, and they're in here. Oh, here we are. Here's one. So you can see both of them. In fact, these are both males because they both bred. One was in one of the 5 gallons, and the other one was the other one. So these are definitely males. And I have seen the checkered barb turn black and gorgeous. Sometimes they get that coloration, especially in a community tank. Just gorgeous. These other fish you see here are going to be breeding soon. I'm getting the tanks together this weekend. I'm going to try to put the females into their breeding setups. These are Apistogramma McMasteri red-shouldered gold, and there's some male cherry barbs at this end. There you go, some male cherry barbs. They're always quite attractive, and some of these, I don't know why, but some of them have kind of long fin. They're more of a long fin variety. Well, shall we say they're throwing long fins, and I'm going to try to take advantage of that and see if I can bring out the long fins in those fish. And then I have a few Apistogramma Hongsloi triple. These are red golds, I should say, not shoulder, red golds of the second morph. So these are also a few that I'm going to be putting together. And I've got females and males in here. Additionally, in this tank, there's the long-finned Ancestris, but I have not had any spawns. It has been a long time since I've had a spawn from those fish. Don't know why. They just, maybe it's because it's popular with so many barbs and Apistogrammas. Maybe they just too shy. Regardless, maybe one day we'll get those going again. I used to have quite a few. But yeah, that's the checkered barbs. So very nice fish. We've got Odessas, and in this tank we put together also the albino cherry barbs, and they produced a good little batch. Not a huge batch, but a little batch. There's one in here, I don't see it right now, but it's white as snow, and I don't know why it's like that. I'm anxious to let it grow out a little bit to see if I can find some, what it will look like. What is a white, snow-like cherry barb? I don't know if there's any genetic issues. I know that there's some in here and I also put in this tank a little small batch of cordyceps that we hatched. So there's some in the back. They hide in the Java moss, but they're in there. There's about 15 to 20 fry, small, about the same size as the cherry barbs, but they are cordyceps. Over here, these fry are doing exceptionally well. They're growing out. I need to move them out of this tank and put them somewhere where they can be of more help. These are my chopre fry. They're gorgeous. They're also called glow light danios because at this age, really, they look like glow light tetras. That's how they got that name, glow light danio. Not glowfish, glow light. I'm not able to focus too well on those. Let's see if I back up. Here we go. They're very active little danio, and I love the red stripe. It glows. It doesn't show on the camera, but if you look up close with the naked eye, they're quite attractive. Always active. So they're doing very. Oh, look who's out. We see a little. This is a L519 honeycomb ancestris out here eating some zucchini. There's about 4 of them in here growing out. Kind of a nice fish, really. So over here behind me, we do have some German blue rams that I don't know if they're hatching or not, but they should be hatching tonight. Let's just take a look to see if there's any hatching. If I can shine my light. The eggs really look good. I don't see any fungus whatsoever. Looks like they're about to hatch. That's what I see. It's like they're about to hatch. That would be a nice batch. The female came from, it's a pair that's in the back here. Let's see, where did he go? Oh, right up in the front here. Let's see if I can, right here in the front. Here's the male and female. The female and the male are from 2 different sources, so I'm crossing them in order to bring out some more color into the line and make them more attractive. The male is from our regular German blue ram, but the female is just gorgeous and has some really brilliant colors. There she is, some true German blue colors. Of course, you can't see much with the light being off. I keep them kind of in the, there you go. You can see how much color she's got. But I pulled the eggs because it's a young pair, and I really want to get a batch from this pair. So looks like they're going to hatch. Looks like they're doing very well. I put small tinge of amount of methylene blue in this container, and it did the job. It just, not a lot of methylene blue, just a little bit, and all it did was form a little tinge. So we've got some tanks for the apistos. They're not set up 100%. The water is in, filters are in. So we're going to set up 3 of those, and then there's 3 more up here. 1, 2, 3, and there's a pair of over here. Let me see if I can turn the light on. There we go. There is a pair of red-shouldered gold McMasteri. I see the female poking her head in the back. And there's the male. Just gorgeous fish, really. This is a young pair. I thought they were going to breed and going to have some fry very quickly because they bonded very quickly and they've been a good pair. But for some reason, nothing yet. She might be young. I just keep feeding them lots of live food, lots of Daphnia and the like. So, new to the fish room is behind me. So I hope you're ready for this. Brand new is a 20-gallon tank full of plecos. These are L260s called the Queen Arabesque plecos. We have observed some trappings, but nothing has yielded yet. And they are gorgeous fish. They have a very fine, elegant pattern to them, but they're young. They're almost, I would say they're not even half, they're about half the size that they're going to be in the end. But the Queen Arabesque pleco, so this colony, we'll have to see how well they do. I have these gold white cloud minnows are in there to act as dither fish. It makes the plecos feel very comfortable, and the dither fish are not going to bother any young or anything like that. So that's what I use. I raise these white cloud minnows. The best fish you can use for your tanks are always the fish you raise yourself, because you know they're not carrying any disease. You raised them from eggs, etc., and that's the best. So let's see. This is our breeding setup. We're going to take another look right now. I like to take a look at Synodontis lucipinus. We're going to take a look at what we have down in there. I'm going to try to move the camera so you can see me working. Let's just take a look at the eggs. Unfortunately, I don't always get eggs, but for the last, I don't know how long it's been, but I've been getting eggs from this colony almost every other day. Probably every other day I get a bunch of eggs. But for a couple months, I wasn't able to get any of the eggs to hatch. And until I figured out what the problem was. Now, you're probably wondering, what could be the problem? Because I was raising these by the droves last year. And the answer is my pH in my water has considerably dropped from the tap. The tap water has dropped a lot. And so instead of being 7.8, it's now 7.2 out of the tap. And it needs to be 7.7 or higher for Synodontis catfish from Lake Tanganyika. And let's just see if we get any eggs. It doesn't look like it. No eggs today. So last night, it looks like they didn't spawn. They haven't spawned for about 3 days. I just put on the meter to see what it says. It's kind of sad, really, for the breeding, all the breeding I had, and it wasn't just laying of the eggs, because they would lay eggs, but it wouldn't hatch. I don't know if it's a fertilization issue, probably, and also not just fertilization, but even the fry, when they hatch, they would die immediately if the water is not hard enough. So I don't see any eggs here. We didn't score tonight. Maybe next time. And that will probably be good for next day. I've been checking every single day because I want to definitely catch them when they do spawn. And then I put them in a tray and watch them hatch in about a day and a half. Well, it takes 36 hours. So when I pull them out the next day, then it only takes one more day and I've got fry. And then I put the fry and pay close attention. Right now, okay, the pH says 8.2, which is super good. I do have to use now, I have been using the buffer in order to raise the pH. So I use alkaline buffer, and I also have here baking soda. So I just use some baking soda also. But the way I do it is I take measurements on the meter and I'm watching it every night. And if it starts to drop, then I start adding a teaspoon of the buffer and then watch it again. And if it rises, it keeps rising. I just keep adding a teaspoon at a time until I get something above 7.8. So actually, if they had spawned, it would have been good. Unfortunately, it also raises the parts per million. So right now, ppm on this tank is 1,110, very high. But that's what happens when you add the buffers. I think it's honestly a little too high, but I think they have spawned in successfully in 800, 900 ppm. So we're going to keep playing with the numbers, but unfortunately that was a problem with my tap water. So I guess the lessons learned for everyone out there and for all of you is that from time to time, don't just assume your tap water from the street is coming in and giving you the exact tap parameters that you measured 6 months ago. You need to continuously check on it and monitor, because during the summer they might want to put in some chemicals to whatever acid they want to add to the water to clean their pipes or whatever it is. And if so, the pH can definitely drop unexpectedly. And that's what happened to me. So I was just scratching my head, couldn't figure out why I was not getting really good hatching, whereas I used to. But now I am back to the hatching. Hi, Red Laser. Welcome. Yeah, it's in the Seacom container. So I started using that. Are mascara barbs still around? Oh, definitely. Let's take a look at the mascara barbs. See what else. A chocolate cherry would be really cool. White cherry. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that whitefish, sometimes, especially I'm hesitant to buy these Snow White and Citrus because of my experience through Greg Sage. He mentioned on a number of occasions that he's had the Snow Whites, long-finned, and Citrus, and they're very weak genetically, and they do have issues when they grow. Whether or not they can survive at a certain age, they seem to just die. So that's another issue I kind of been shying away from. It's getting fish that have a lot of weakness, and very similar to, I don't know if you all heard about the Jack Dempsey Electric Blue. The Electric Blue Jack Dempsey has definitely a genetic disorder, and a lot of the fry, most of the fry, it seems, will not live past a certain number of months. They grow to a certain size, big enough to sell, and then once you get them, you won't be able to keep them alive. And only sometimes do they get past that, and then once they get past that, they're okay. So finding adult Electric Blue Jack Dempseys is tricky. But you can get a Electric Blue Acara, which is a much more peaceful cichlid and has the same brilliant blue if you're looking for the electric blue coloration. And they are a lot more, they're better for your community tank and the like. So that's something to think about. Definitely something to think about. They are prolific though, and you can be overrun with them if you breed them too much. So apart from that, let's take a look at the mascara barbs. I know somebody asked about it. So here they are. And they are, I think, at the age where they're just doing awesome. They're starting to show their gold coloration and get some red. I am now in the process of getting their tank ready for breeding. I have thought about it, and I want to add some traps in here and just wait and see how they do. But they certainly do love. They love to be fed, and they go crazy when they're fed. But these are the Apsaras. These are Dawkinsia apsara. They're not the Asomylus. So these will not get filaments on their dorsal, but their coloration is, in my opinion, much more brilliant. Let's see. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at these fish. They might be a little shy with the camera. Here they are. Yeah, they come out and eat on my hand. They love the freeze-dried worms. You can get a glimpse right now of some of the colors. Don't remember when I got these, but they're at least a year old. Or shall we say I've had them for at least a year. They're fun. They're fun when they come and eat out of your hand. They're very quick. You can see them, they kind of dart away sometimes super fast. They grab a bite and then yeah. Some of them are getting nice blue mascara pattern, and that's good. Right around the eyes. I believe there's, I forgot now how many there are, like 13 in here. Okay. Just about eating everything. So then I just kind of, the last bite, somebody's going to grab it and they'll just get it, take it away. They'll come up and boom. Yep, those are the mascara barbs. And this is a 5-foot tank. They need the space for swimming. I recommend it. I have it kind of bare. It's just got some gravel, dark gravel, and one little plastic plant to swim around. But we're going to get some other things in here soon and get them going. Now, interestingly, these catfish, I put in a trap, and I have not received any eggs yet. I still think they're a little young, but I also have noticed some behavior that is very interesting. Males sparring with males, fighting with each other. Some females super fat. I think that they're old enough to spawn. So what I really need is a kind of trap that will allow the fish to spawn and then for me to check the trap. There's several ways to do that. One of it is to put them in a glass bowl instead of this. This is a, I think this is a 3D printed egg scattering trap. It's black, but it has a grill, and you can see them kind of in this pot. It sort of acts like a cave. If there are any eggs that are spawned, they will go through and the bottom and get caught in the bottom. But I have not, every time I've checked it, I've not seen any eggs or fry. But these are leucistic pink petricola synodontis species that I have not bred yet. Just waiting for the right time when they are fully mature. But there's a good number of them in here, and so the colony is strong. I keep the light off, that's why you see so much reflection. I just don't turn the light on for the catfish. They seem to be so much happier without it. And if you don't, you know. So, hi Craig Catfish. So did you try these Synodontis petricola, the pink ones, or shall we say the leucistic, or did you refer to, or have you tried just the regular Synodontis lucipinis or petricola, the normals? Okay, yeah, this is a unique coloration. If we can breed these, I think we'll be in good shape. We could sell all that we can raise. But again, my issue is the pH now. So now that I know, I'm going to have to start playing around with the pH on that tank. So tonight I wanted to show you, this is why it just forced me, even though I have a headache tonight, I wanted to show you this because tonight I have to reset this. This is what it looks like. This is 3 days of Daphnia, Daphnia in green water. It's just unbelievable. These things multiply, I almost want to say 5-6 times faster than regular Daphnia. In 3 or 4 days, I can turn this complete green water into what you see here, clear water with a overcrowded colony. This one, I don't know, this one had a little more difficulty getting started. I added a few more Daphnia from the other one. But what I have been doing is trying to figure out a 200-liter culture. Wow, what is a 200-liter culture? I wonder how many gallons that is. But yeah, these things are unbelievable. And I'm using just green water to feed them and to multiply them. So tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drain this, clean it, add green water, and put back a few to restart, and then feed the rest. So let's do that. This one too also needs to be reset. The water is too clear. I don't think that. Now, what I could do also is test this. I'd like to see what happens if I try feeding them with. What's going to happen if I try feeding them with not green water, but 52 gallons. Thank you. 50-gallon tank. Yeah, if you have an extra tank sitting around and you want to use it to grow Daphnia and the like, that's the way to go. So in looking at it, what I'm going to do is I take a Daphnia net. This is a one brine shrimp net, I should say, or a Daphnia net. This is a fine one, a small one. I have them, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drain them out, try to get all of them, and then put them in a half liter of water. So this is of course dechlorinated water. It's been aerated for more than 24 hours, and then put in the bottle there. So I use that in the tank. So I'm just going to put them all in here, and I'll do that by netting them out and draining it out. But I try to not to get a lot of the gunk. That is, this time, I don't know why, even with the air moving, usually I put a small amount of air, and that keeps the green water circulating, and so that it doesn't settle at the bottom and die. Green water has to be suspended pretty much in order to stay alive. So let's try that. I'm going to. I have. This is something I was cleaning out the bottom of the tank container. So I'm just going to set this. It's a 2-liter container. And I just set it down there, and so I'm just going to siphon it out, and of course the Daphnia will come with it. Tons of Daphnia. Trying to get it off the bottom without getting the green. Oh. Okay, goofed. What I could do, make it easy. Yeah, went a little too much. I have to pour out now. The 2-liter bottle has water, but I think some Daphnia got in it, so I'm just going to pour that again through the net. Make sure I don't miss any of the Daphnia. Okay. And the baby Daphnia for the Daphnia must be super small. I mean, tiny, super small. Let's put that in there. And you can see them. they're congregating right there. That's amazing. But because there's so much, it will crash. These will all be dead by tomorrow if I don't do this tonight. And that reason being that maybe I could put in some food for the, maybe that would work. Oh, I stirred it up. I didn't siphon it right. Water was low, so that's a lot of green. I could let that settle first. Let the green settle, and then I'll pull out the. But let's take a look at what I was able to get just from the top portion. If you take a closer look, I'll just hold this up to you, to the screen. And so here we got a bottle, and this is a lot of Daphnia. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, so this is Daphnia, which is it's a lot smaller than the regular Daphnia. And because it's smaller, it is more suitable for even smaller fish, fry, and the like. And when they have babies, sometimes what I've done is I've taken the Daphnia and just taken a bunch when the fry are just starting to hatch, and I'll put it in the tank. So I'll just take like this, take a portion and put it in here, boom, boom, boom. And they'll live in there. They won't die. They'll live in the tank. And then as the fry get bigger and bigger, they can eat it. And anytime they're breeding, they're throwing off little tiny babies, and the fry can eat on that as well. So Daphnia has a very unique way of swimming, and it just makes the fish go crazy. I'm going to feed, I have a female betta up here, and we're going to fatten her up and give it another try. My first attempt at breeding bettas was not successful. There was some fry that hatched, but they seem to have died out. At least I never saw them free swimming. If I saw them free swimming, that would be one thing, but I never saw any free swimming. I saw a few that were hatched and wigglers, but never free swimming. So I don't know what happened if the father got a little too much. I eventually pulled him out, but still I didn't get any fry. And so what I can use these for is I can also reset the container by refilling it with pure green water. This is my pure green water right here. And then I can take the bottle and the can after I wipe it out and just reset it, and then take just one baster, throw in the Daphnia, and boom. What I've learned about the Daphnia is I think they also lay eggs, a lot of eggs, especially if they're crashing. If they do crash in your container, just refill it with green water and wait. And I have found that they bounce back. And you may see that there's none in there, but they bounce back. Let's go ahead and let's feed some of the Daphnia to our new species. For those of you who have joined us, I showed at the beginning a new species in the fish room. I do not have the adults here in this fish room, but please go ahead and tell me what these are if you know. It's kind of, right now they're really fat with brine shrimp, but this is going to be a very interesting species to have. And they look pretty fat, but I like to put in some Daphnia, so let me go ahead and get some. We'll go ahead and put it in. Yeah, just put that Daphnia in there. See that? It's a cloud of, oh wow, small stuff. If there's any large Cereodaphnia that are in this tank and they don't get eaten, I'm not worried because they will get eaten. It's just a matter of time. So what it looks like, in looking at these fry, if I was to try to identify the species, I actually was given these fry. So yeah, it's hard to see, but even without that, there's not really much you can see. They're not endlers. But I have not seen a picture of the parents, so I don't even know. And by the way, what we're looking at is about 100 fry. And over at the fish house, we have over 1,000 more of these fry. It was a very, very large batch. So I would say at least 1,000 fry, which means not all of them are going to make it, right? I mean, for sure. But these are, I just took some for myself to be able to observe them, watch them grow, and see what happens. I think it'll be nice once they get to an identifiable age. So keep coming back to the live streams and videos, and we'll show more about this as time goes on. Next, I did want to mention about the Medaka rice fish. These are orange Medaka rice fish, and I was given these from one of you subscribers, local club member. And these guys, he gave me also this mop made out of styrofoam with pieces of scratchy pad cut and sticking out the bottom, and it works great. He said, "Oh, this is all you got to do." I see if you can see any eggs. Actually, I see. Let me clean the glass. I can't see anything. The glass looking like that, right? Okay, let's clean the glass. See if you can see. I pull out, every other day I pull out about 20 eggs off. I just pick them off of these little 4 prongs. And the Medaka rice fish, the eggs come out of the female and they just kind of hang there on their bodies between their fins. And they have a sticky, it's almost like an umbilical cord. But anyway, these guys are camera shy. I've never seen them in the back like that. They're always in the front. Orange Medaka, and they will grow in your ponds outdoors and the like. But what I'm doing is growing a bunch of them. And here's the first batch, as you can see in this little glass jar. First batch that has hatched. They're doing very well. And then the second batch is even bigger. And first egg was put in on November 18th, and the first fry appeared 10 days later. So this one seemed to have hatched in 10 days. So then once I see the hatch, I stop putting eggs in there. So now what I'm doing is I'm collecting eggs. I put them in a light methylene blue solution. This represents, it says 20. So these are collecting eggs from the 10th. And on the 20th of December, I will take all the eggs and it will be time to start hatching, and I'll put them in a container. So that's what I did here. So up until the 10th, I put them in this container when they're about ready to hatch. And these are just very interesting. Let me see if I can zoom in for you. The eggs, I can get it to focus. That's always a problem. The eggs they're doing pretty good. Okay, there you go. Can you see the eyes? Look at the eyes on those eggs. There you go. All the eyes are showing. So these guys are going to hatch any day. In fact, I expected them already. I was expecting them on the 10th. And today is what, the 13th? 12th. Today's the 12th. And let me see if there's any hatching that hatched today, because I checked earlier this morning. And you'll start to see the fry, but I have a feeling they're all going to start hatching, and then they'll hatch over the course of 10 days, and then of course they'll stop. So I don't see any fry yet. It's kind of interesting. 13 days. It does depend on temperature, but I'm going to expect to see a lot. Now, I told you every day I'm taking out eggs, I put them in this solution. Now you can see the eggs in the bottom. I don't know, it might even be better if I show you the bottom of this. This is kind of interesting if you want to see how many eggs I've been collecting. There they are. Those are the Medaka rice fish. There is no fungus, that's good. So they'll stay in this, and I'll put them in clean water in a complete jar on the 20th. And I'll stop adding. So I'm going to try just collecting eggs every day. And we're hoping that I will have a very nice supply of Medaka rice fish for sale when the weather starts turning nice and people want to put them out of their ponds, and it will have a nice market for them. But in the meantime, I'm just letting them grow. These guys are ready for a tank, definitely. I'm going to put them in a tank. I'm going to put them in this tank. I've already decided these angelfish need to go into a bigger tank anyway, so these are albino dantums. And they need to go into a tank. There's also lots of lucipinnis that are ready for sale now. These can be sold. And so I don't even have a problem if I leave the Medaka rice fish with the Lucies. The Lucies won't bother them. The Medaka rice fish don't hang out at the bottom anyway. They hang out more towards the top. They are really hiding, aren't they? There they are. Sometimes you can see the eggs on the anal fin, just kind of stuck there. I don't see any on these right now. Well, let's take a look. I'll show you what it looks like if there are any. I'm going to pull the mop, and we'll just take a look. See if I can spot any and put them in the container. So what I do is I just pick this out, okay, and I look for eggs. And so it's so easy. The eggs out of the water show up well. Sometimes they get way up inside there too. There's one. Here's one right there. Okay, I'll see if I can hold it up so you can see. I'm going to point to it right there. Might be easier with the other camera. Hold on. I'm going to look at the back camera, and I'm going to, yeah. Someone sees, there's an egg right there. So sometimes these things are covered in those eggs, and they're quite hardy. I can pick them off and hold them in my fingers. There it is. So now I'm just going to put it in the, I'll just take the egg and I'll just put it in the container. So I'm just going to do that every night and put it in the water, and there they are. This one's going to be a good batch. This is going to be like 30 fish. So every 10 days, if I get, well, the 20th, it's not for another week. Wow. Okay. Well, not a week. Yeah, another week. So as you can see, they're very prolific and very popular right now. So that's the idea, is I'm going to do my production right here using this 2.5 gallon tank, jars, and a grow out tank, and I'm going to mass produce them. And when we get enough, we can go from there. You know, find people who would like to get some orange Medaka rice fish. Okay, so that was pretty much the idea. I'm going to now take a moment to, I got to feed the fish tonight. I've got to go ahead and, looks like it's settled. Let's go ahead and finish the job. Let me put this over here and let you see what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to finish the job. I'm going to try to get the remaining amounts of Daphne out of there. I can do it this time without making a mess. Let's see. Yeah, they're collecting right along the side there. Okay, I just want to get the massive amounts in the concentrated areas. Try not to get a lot of that green. There we go. And when the green starts getting picked up, I just want to stop. I don't need to be perfect. I've got so many of these. There's probably a better way to do it. I know it would be if I had a big tank, 50 gallon, 55, right? And then I could just, scoop them out. And sometimes I do that. I can just go like this and, yeah, I can just do this if I want. Get a good supply. And I'll throw these in with throw them in here with the Illuminatus. There we go. Now I'll clean these out. Refill them with green water. Throw in some of this, as you can see. Boy, there's just thousands. And that was like I said, on the 9th, and today's the 12th, right? 3 days. 3 days is all it took to bring up the numbers like that. That's what I mean. They're just so prolific. I don't know why they're like that. They're just crazy prolific. But I like them because they're smaller, so all fish can eat them. More smaller fish can eat them. And at the same time, they're producing so much faster. Beautiful. So now I'm just going to bring it over to the location. I just set under the shelf and siphon out of my green water tank. Some nice green water. Let's do that. Now the green water tank is kind of concentrated. It's all green water. I'm just gonna take a little over a gallon out of there, and for this particular amount, maybe fill this vase jar with green water up to there. Then I'm going to use some of, like I said, just kind of water it down a little bit with some dechlorinated water. It's dechlorinated in the sense that it was left. And then I'm going to just add back, let's just go ahead and add back 1 baster full of adults. and that's it. That's all I need to do. The rest can be fed. I don't need to add much more because I want the water to be not full of Daphnia. I want it to be more fresher, should we say? I don't know what the word is. But you know, in other words, the water is going to be it's not going to be so polluted because of the high concentration of Daphnia. It's going to be cleaner water. There we go. And that's it. Now I'll write down, I'm going to write down right on there. It says reset. Last time I reset that was 12.9. I'll put 12.12 now. And that gives me an idea. It took 3 days. I was able to get all that. It's great stuff for breeding fish. Very important. I can do the same thing here. What I might do here, this doesn't have a green issue like that one did. What I might do, I'm going to try something a little different. This one, I think what I'll do is I'm just going to bring it down and refill it with the green water rather than clean it out. Although there is a lot of muck here at the bottom. Let me take out some of that muck. It might be beneficial, but I don't like too much because then when it comes time to glean or take out the green water, I don't want to have. There we go. Just take out some of the muck. There's a lot of detritus worms. I never had this problem with detritus worms before, but they're definitely an issue now. And there we go. Took out the muck. So then I'm just going to take out this time again, we'll use our handy dandy net. Okay. Try to suck out all the Daphnia that's in motion. I'm reducing the population so that they can reproduce even more. Here we go. And in this case, I don't have to put any back because there's going to be a few in there. You can see them. There's always a few at the bottom that didn't get sucked out. And these I can harvest. Put them in the tanks. I like to clean my net by putting it in with aluminatus. They always get the benefits. And there we go. Now I'm going to give this. I want to experiment a little bit and put in this particular bottle, maybe not as high a concentration. So these will. Well, I think it will be interesting to see. Maybe I'll put the same in. And there you have it. It's amazing how you can actually do the live feedings in your fish room and feed your fish, and it's pretty much free food. I mean, it does cost a little bit of plant fertilizer for growing the green water, but the green water doesn't cost me anything. Maybe a little bit of electricity for the light that it has to be on, but it's so minimal compared to other fish food. And like I can feed this to my dock of rice fish. They get Daphnia. Now they're getting Daphnia. They'll love it. They're going to go to town. And then I'm going to feed this to a lot of the pistos. So that'll help condition them, get them ready for breeding. So I hope you enjoyed the little thought I had here on Daphnia. I've had not such good success in the past, but now I'm having good success. I am making it available, so if people ordered it on the website, they can get Cereodaphnia. The website is aquarium.biz or biz, and Aquarium Biz is got a lot of live food culture. So I send it out all over the place, even to the U.S. I've sent even some of the cultures all the way to Australia, and it's made it there just fine. So we have the Paramecia, we have Cereodaphnia now. And what I'll do for shipping is I will take a container or a baster full and put them in a package of green water, and then I will put it in the box, and they'll ship with the green water, and then I'll have another amount of green water. Well, depending on where I'm shipping it to, if it's not an issue, then I ship green water along with it. So when the person receives them, all they have to do is take the amount of green water with the Daphnia and put it in a container like this one, in a glass jar, gallon jar, and basically do nothing. Just wait until the green water starts to clear, and then they'll see the Cereodaphnia. Yeah, and then from there, just repeat the process like I did right now. So, what strain of Daphnia are they? Cereodaphnia is all I know exactly. It's a smaller species of. It's not the Magna. It's definitely smaller. There are probably 100 different species, but let me ask you this: does it really matter what species you're feeding to your fish? I mean, it's just a thought I had. A lot of people, Cereodaphnia is moina, according to some sources. Same thing. Don't know. I'm not an expert on crustaceans, freshwater crustaceans, but so it could be that they're the same. Maybe it's a slightly different species. But then again, how do you know you have moina? I ask that question because a lot of times we've gotten our live food cultures from one aquarist to another, and we pass it around, especially at the club level, and we give them to each other, we share them, but does anybody really know? Put them under a microscope and count the number of hairs on their little forceps to determine which species it is, because I think a lot of the determination as to what species they are, you're going to find that out only under a microscope. But what about the nutritional value? Well, the Cereodaphnia, or it's moina, or it's some other small crustacean. What I see here is it's basically growing like a species that's very much the same. Yeah, Russian reds are the easiest to identify. I think that's what I had, but I haven't seen the red color like they used to have, so they aren't so reddish as they used to be. So I'm even wondering now if the species of Daphne that I have is in fact that. But unless I get something from someone else and I compare the two right up close and I say this one is this and that one's that, oh, these are different. Because I think it also depends on what you feed them. I think what the color of the animal is going to depend on what you feed them. Parameters spawning the rams. So the rams, well, the best way I use RO water, or it could be mixed RO water with tap water, but just bring the TDS down, get it closer in pH, drop to closer than anything like 7.0, something a little lower. If you can do that if you can bring it down 7.0, 6.9, 6.8, just using the RO water. Don't add buffers or anything. That's good enough. The key with them is conditioning. Make sure your rams are in proper condition. The females have to be ready to lay. You can always tell when they're in the corner trying to get a male to come over and they're doing the little circle dance. and then you know that she's ready. You can put her then into a tank by herself, and then add the male. And usually she's not too picky about the male. My KH and GH, well, I don't know what it is now because I've forgotten. It's been a while since I tested. My test kit's kind of old. I'm looking here. I used to have it written here, but it's been so long. That would be something. I'm going to have to buy a new test kit because mine's expired. And I think I will do that. And I want to get what is the GH and KH. However, to answer the final question, what do I need to do to spawn the rams? Set the temperature to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. So they're a little warmer. That little boost in temperature is going to go a long ways. So that's how you get them to spawn. Now, getting the fry raised is another story. If you're dealing with black rams, it's a real challenge because they hatch a day earlier, premature, compared to the other German blues. And the German blues, they almost will eat baby brine shrimp. I like to use, on the first feeding, I will make sure the tank is flooded with paramecia, and so the small fry can just chow down on lots of paramecia, and as they grow, the paramecia will be wiped out. They'll eat them all. So I think that's pretty much. So yeah, you can use tap water if it's lower in pH. If you want to bring down the pH to 7, it just depends on your water parameters. So you want to make sure the TDS is, it helps to have it like 100 or less, which means that's not pure RO water. It can be partly tap water. If your tap water comes out of the tap at low TDS, then great. Yeah, not all tap water is equal, as Jeff says. That's the reason why I use RO, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the RO to set the parameters and try to get it right. I got wind blowing on me from the... There we go. Maybe you can hear better now. So those are the parameters for raising rams. Getting them to eat is using lots of small live foods, and you better guess or be sure that I'm going to take advantage of these very small Daphnia for breeding the those rams. Those ram eggs we got are going to hatch soon, and they're really nice because they're going to come out, and I want them to be able to eat the baby Cereodaphnia. Now, how do I get baby Cereodaphnia? I put a bunch of the this. I'll get, because what you're seeing is the big ones, but if you look super close, we've also filtered out really tiny ones. I don't know if you can see the really tiny ones in there. And those would be bite size for baby rams. But the first bites, or shall we say the first feedings, is going to be paramecia. After a couple days of eating paramecia, it turns out that they're going to be big enough to eat the Cereodaphnia, and they're going to be big enough to eat the smaller, newly hatched baby brine shrimp. And then once they're on that, it's what's the expression? It's all, it's all downhill after that. So you can just coast, and the babies will grow on baby brine shrimp. Once they're on that, it's good as gold. So I hope that answered your question. I don't know which kind of ram you're trying to breed, but you can have success with all of them if you just give yourself time and keep trying. One of the things that I do in this fish room is I try, and sometimes, yeah, I have given up on certain species, but it's not because I don't feel like I can breed them. Sometimes it's just a matter of, I think it's maybe I needed the tank, or sometimes it was just there was no point, and it was just a common fish. We bred some penguin tetras here, And, okay, I bred penguin tetras. And those were very small fry, and they hung up at the top. And just the same as the thread fin rainbows, I bred those too, and I had a big bunch of them. But there comes a point in time when you realize that I can breed 100 of these fish, but they're only worth, $3-4 in the end. And so it's like, why am I spending time? Now, on the epistogrammas, we're talking about you raise them up, you're going to be able to get a lot more for those. I mean, we're talking, $20 a piece. So maybe 40 a pair, 50 a pair if in some of the kinds, some of the species. Yeah, true, some species lay less eggs, some are more productive. So, but the question is, are you willing to put that much time and effort into raising fry, and then in the end, you just have to give them away? Or would you like a species that's more sought after and people are knocking at your door to get them? For that reason, for that specific reason, I think it's better in most cases to spend your time on fish that are valuable, and even if you have difficulty getting them to spawn. So for example, we were able to spawn the L119s, that's the honeycomb plecos. I got several batches from them, from the trio. Then I went to California and I brought them back. Let's see, plecos, fancy goldfish. What's that pair special? Fancy goldfish, black and white. Are you talking about raising fancy goldfish? I guess that would be the same if you could do it. Victor Morales, sick. Thank you for joining us tonight. I don't recall having you on the program in the past, but I'm glad you were able to join. That's wonderful. And extra large betas. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a number of people I know in some of the clubs that are going for the what are those betas called? The mouth brooding betas, macrostoma, I think. Yeah. So these are things. These are kind of some of the things that goes into mind and clicking. I'm raising some plecos that I know when they get to be sellable size, I know I'm going to be able to move them very easy, and they're going to be sellable. But why would I spend now? On the other hand, you're probably wondering, I do have some, and here I'm raising a lot of checkered barbs, and the Odessa barbs are a little bit more money, but what can you get for cherry barbs or checkered barbs? Not much. But there are just a few fish that I like to keep in the fish room because, to be honest, it's fun. And they do spawn easily, and some fish do good in numbers. Like, for example, if I only had 2 Odessa barbs, they wouldn't do well. They got to have a numbers, but you can kick up the numbers by breeding a spawn of them and having 20, 30, selling half of those and keeping half of them. And then you have a beautiful tank, like I was just showing you. I mean, this is an awesome site. I mean, I don't need this many for breeders, right? I don't need this many. But come on, I mean, these guys are gorgeous. They're just eye popping. They think they're going to get fed, so they make for a dazzling tank. If you had a tank full of these, people's heads are going to, yeah, very nice. Okay, there's a nice little question. What happens if you breed brother and sister together? Well, I've had a lot of experience breeding things, and not just fish. maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't, but when I was in the United States, I was well known for a particular breed of pigeon called a tippler pigeon, and I competed and broke records in the United States for flying tipplers for marathon times. So I've had tippler kits fly for over 18 hours. I was the first and only person to do it in the United States. Since that time, some Canadians have also broken it, and I know a gentleman myself who's really good. But with all animals, and it's very similar, pigeons or fish, sometimes you're going to end up wanting to put a brother and sister together. The difference between what happens when you put a brother and sister together depends on selection. And this is what I mean by that. So it makes sense that if you continually put brother and sister together, you could in effect affect the outcome of your progeny. But it turns out that if you get a higher percentage of defects, for example, I noticed that in these albino cherry barbs, there's a good number of defects in some of the fish, bent spines and things like this. And maybe that white one is going to be a defect and it won't even pan out. Maybe it'll die early, I don't know. So I would imagine that those albino cherry barbs came about from repeated brother and sister matings from the same parents. But the defects that you look for will start to increase in number, but it won't be with all of the progeny. Therefore, what makes it different is if you only breed from the best, so take 100 fish that you get out of a spawn, 100 rams, let's just use that for an example, or you raise 50 rams, maybe 100 were spawned, but then you get 50 that were raised to adulthood. Of those 50, there may only be 4 or 5 that are exceptional. Maybe they grew bigger, they grew larger, and they just have excellent qualities. Those are the fish that you pick out as a breeder and keep for yourself. If you keep them for yourself and you breed those together, you're breeding the best to the best. And it works the same in pigeons and other animals as well. You're breeding best to best. But if you pick one of them that has a defect, and that defect will be introduced into your line by breeding it or getting progeny out of it when in itself was not the best. So when you get a batch, there's always the tendency to someone to come over and say, "Ooh, I like that one. Ooh, look at that one. You know, that one right there is for me." Well, they'll try to twist your arm to sell you that fish. But maybe that's the fish you need to keep. Maybe that's the one that's going to bring about a better line. So putting brother and sister together could result in better if the brother and sister themselves are selected as the best of the best. But just any old brother and sister put together, yes, you can bring out the defects. If you put 2 fish that both have defects together, you're going to exponentially raise the percentage of defective progeny. So I hope I explained that well enough. It's just a simple matter of genetics. There's a lot of books that are out there on different animals. I'm sure dogs and cats, there's probably a billion books on there. I have a book called, what was the name of that book? Breeding Better Pigeons, I think. Breeding Better Pigeons. Something like that. It was, I have a copy in my library. I haven't looked at it in a while. But basically, if you read the books, and you'll see that the whole point of getting something nicer out of something you have can come about, but it's a very small percentage. In other words, a male and a female put together will produce lots of fish or lots of birds or lots of whatever you're breeding, but there's only going to be a few that are going to be possibly have characteristics that are better than the parents. But because it's better, remember, it's a trait that we view as better. Case in point, some people view, oh, I got this short-bodied ram, and they say, oh, look, I've improved on it. Now it looks even better, and now I'm going to breed from that, and they end up breeding a whole bunch of balloon rams. What they have really done is taking a defect, which means problems with the spine, and they've introduced that defect to cause all of the progeny to come out that way. And so they bred them in such a way that now they're producing only defective fish, and the defective fish are now producing defective fish. But is it a defect or is it an improvement? So it's kind of like depends on your point of view. It could be an improvement. It could be a defect. It's very likely that if you stop and think about it, a lot of people like albino fish, and I have some right behind me. But is not albinoism or lack of pigment a defect, or is it an improvement? So it's just a characteristic, and there are side effects. In the case of the Dawkinsia denisoni, I can't think of the name, the denison barb. In the case of that fish, they came out with a yellow strain, and it's kind of like, this is an improvement. Wow, striking colors. But at the same time, the fish has a tendency to go blind, especially if there is red in the eyes, or albinoism also inherently part of it. If those denisoni have red eyes, don't buy them. They will go blind and they will die early. I've had a couple of them in here, and not knowing this at the time, but learning later, this is how it is. If you get the ones with black eyes, the other characteristic or defect is not there, and they will live without going blind. But that's a side effect, the blindness, that comes about often in the case of albino fish. In other words, they see very poorly. And I know that for a fact. My albino cherry barbs are the easiest fish in the fish room to net. Take a net, scoop them up. They don't even hardly see the net coming. Why is that? Because they don't see well. Now, put a net in the water and try to catch a Odessa barb. Good luck. I call them ninja fish. They disappear so fast, and they can shoot away. The best way to do it is, if I want to pull out those males that we were looking at, the females, I get them conditioned to come up to the top to eat, and they start boiling at the water surface, and then I take a net and just scoop them all up real quick before they even see the net. They're in the net, and then I can sort them after they're in the net. That's the best way to catch them. But in general, some fish are very hard to catch because they're very nimble. One fish, just FYI, I don't know why this is, but the long-finned rosy barb is an exceptionally good swimmer, and they are very hard to catch. And the irony is that most long-finned fish are very easy to catch because of the long fins that slows them down. Angelfish are like that. But the long-finned rosy barb, for some reason, has adapted well to this long finnage. Even tiger barbs put in the tank can hardly catch them. And with those long fins, they seem to get away with not getting nipped. Why? Because they're just like so quick and they're always active. The rosy barb is always on the move. Yeah, those are some of my favorites I've had in the fish room a very long time. Longfin rosies, Odessas, the checkered barbs. I always want to keep some of them around. Uh, Also, what else do I have here? Yeah, the checker barb and the Exozonas. The ones that are peaceful in nature, I tend to stick closer to those. So now, I hope that answered your question. Maybe I kind of got long-winded and talked about things that you weren't really asking for. I'm not sure, but nobody seemed to stop me. Unless they did try to stop me, and I was like too focused. Well, there you go. I say you can have someone go and do water changes. Buy a tank and the fish, and they can bring it back when they want to stop having the fish. Yeah. Yeah, so that question about the brother-sister mating was from Grant Murphy 7893. I hope I answered your question. I certainly do appreciate the question. Koi. Yeah. Somebody's I'm not sure. Discus, killifish. I don't know what the question was. A lot of fish going out there. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. There's a lot more for me to do. I hope to be back with you again in the near future because I have accepted a different line of work. I've accepted a new job, and so I'm going to be working a lot more hours than I used to. So this is probably going to affect my energy level and probably not be able to have as many times with the videos as I can. But I do want to. I'll just have to revert to maybe on the weekends. Might be better off. So. But the fish and some of these projects are really nice. I wanted to mention, there's always those special fish you have in mind, one has in mind, that are your like bucket fish. One of those for me is the Maharaja barb, and I don't know where to get them. I don't know who can get them, and I only know a few people who have ever had them. And they're quite attractive. They're another Indian barb, and the male's got a lot of nice color, kind of nice. So, yeah, might be nice if I ever ran across some of those. I would definitely jump on it so I could have them and try to keep them going, because it's some of those more rare fish that are just not in the hobby that I feel like it should be. And that's where it would be really nice to do it. Then again, we have everybody's always love the certain kinds of apistos. You've got to be an apistogramma lover, and if you do have an opportunity to get some Lisabeth apistogrammas, it seems to be like the holy grail. A lot of people have difficulty keeping them alive. I guess if I was to get some of those, it would cost me a lot of money, so I would definitely want to have a tank completely set up and ready for them with them in mind, and try to make it so that they're very content and happy. Maybe I would be successful at getting a spawn. What else? There are some fish that I would love to have, but space just doesn't allow for it. Yeah, there was a fish that recently died in the hands of its keeper. It was sort of a tragic accident, tragedy, because it was beloved by its owner. It was a red Asian arowana, very expensive, and I'm really sorry that it passed away. But it was like a family pet. It was, some fish can be that way, and it got sick and passed away. The owner was a little shocked. He had been feeding the thing crickets, and even weeks and weeks later, when it died, he found a cricket legs that were undigested is still in the digestive tract. So he probably learned his lesson that when you have a fish that expensive, that special, only the best foods should be used, and you shouldn't cut corners. It's just the way it is. If you really want some longevity and things to happen, don't try things that really are not recommended. I guess they're not recommended for a reason. But when they're a pet, sometimes we think, it's like people feeding their dog people food. Sometimes, well, vegetables are good for dogs, even though we think of them as being just carnivorous and carnivores and eating meat, but peas and carrots are also good for animals as well. So yeah, so let's see. But not much else that I was excited about to show you tonight. I think we covered most of the things, but I do appreciate the evening spent with you on this Friday night. And I took off my watch. I don't even know how long we've been on live, but anyway, maybe I do appreciate everybody joining tonight. Let's see, any more last minute questions? I want to make sure I don't want, if you didn't get your question answered, I will gladly respond to you if you leave a question in the comment section of this video, or if you're watching in the replay, please. I'm happy to respond. I always respond to all comments, even if I don't get it right away. Yeah, Malik, by the way, Craig's Catfish is asking about Malik. He's doing okay. He's just working and at the same time managing a house full of tanks. He's got here in this little fish room, I need to care for about 43 tanks, and that's just 100 square foot. And he's got a basement full, main floor full, top floors, 3 bedrooms full. And so there's a lot of fish to take care of, and I'm not always there to help him like he's there every day, but that just gives you an idea of how his hands can be really full. So, but oh, you lost 50 L134 eggs about a week ago. Oh man, that is tragic. Wow. Yeah, accidents can happen. I think sometimes, like for example, you'll notice that people who take flashlights and shine it in the cave. I know that our dear friend Tom at TM Aquatics, actually, he's on many occasions, he's taking the flashlight and he's saying, well, I'm not gonna shine it in the cave because I don't want to disturb them. And he knows his fish and he knows better. And so take a lesson. Sometimes it's not worth trying to get all excited and trying to show if it's a fish that you really want to do well with, and you don't want to disturb them. So yeah, I'm gonna pass out. I'm going to pass on now to the next YouTube fish tuber out there, and let them take care of the next round, and I'm going to sign off for tonight. This is FishEZ. Thank you very much for joining me, and we will catch you the next time. Thank you so much. And as always, appreciate the thumbs up, appreciate the links to share the channel with others. And if you're just new to the channel, yes, I appreciate very much the new ones who come, and maybe for the first time. If you're not a member, you don't have to be a member, but if you want to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button, it's much appreciated. Everyone have a great night, and this weekend, enjoy your fish, enjoy your fish room, and above all, keep it real.